Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to insert data in Excel in order to maximize what you can do with this data in order to avoid mistakes and also to avoid confusion. You can think that entering data in Excel is really straightforward, and the truth is, yes it is. We've got columns and we've got rows and cells at the intersection of these columns and rows, and all you need to do is just type up number, type up text, and that's all it is. Yet there are some very common mistakes that I've done, and I'll cover a few of them, 3 of them to be precise, just to give you an idea of what kind of things are important and what kind of things can really make big difference to you working in Excel. First of all, the first rule, and when I say rule I really mean this is a rule, you should never enter text with number in the same cell, and this is particularly important when we talk about data ranges and data sets, because when you have headings and subheadings, then depending on what you're working with, this is down to your judgment. If you think you need a number, then you might as well go for it. But whenever you have a cell that you know you want to use for calculation, any number that you think you might want to sum it or multiply it or use it for any sort of calculation, has to be on its own. Otherwise Excel won't be able to work with it. A lot of people have this tendency to put, especially like when you have description, let's say hourly rate, what's the point of having this in 2 cells like that when you can perfectly put it like this, you see, in one cell, 15.8 pounds, and it actually looks better. Many people would agree. And yes, but there is nothing we can do with it. If you put description like that, then you still need to use the actual number in the formula, which means you have to type it again, because there is simply no way that you can multiply this by any sort of number, like number of worked hours. You see, there is a value error. Even if you change this to number format, which actually already is number format, it's just simply not going to work. That's why you want numbers on your own. So if you're one of these people that really don't like spreading your data into like separate cells, you just want to keep things concise and so on, well, unfortunately that's something you've got to do, because otherwise you simply can't use the data you've got. You actually asking yourself to do a lot of repetition, and then if the number change you need to do multiple updates. This is not really doing you any justice. So what you want to do is to always put numbers separate, and if there are some things you can do to actually make it look better. If you still don't like it, you still can't get used to the way it looks, it's a good idea just to put some background. You see this line in the middle disappears already, and you can put another color to another sort of cell, so they're different. And then you can put, let's say just to these ones, you can put outside borders, so they are really, as they look, like they are fields on their own, even though they are over 2 columns, but they look more like a one field. Maybe you can even adjust the size of columns so it doesn't take too much space. So this is one thing. Numbers should always have their own cells, especially numbers that are used for calculations. Second thing is that sometimes you might really get confused, and it's not really Excel trying to be tricky, but sometimes the numbers you see here are not really the numbers that we really have got, because when you click, let's say, on hours worked for Mike, what happens? Oh, this is not 20, it's 19.6. What happens here? These numbers are rounded, and yes, if you rounded them yourself you would have known, but if the worksheet is not yours, then you might not simply see things like this. You might simply not realize. So it's always a good idea to just click in a cell and see, okay, well, it's nearly 57 but not quite. So if you're calculating income per year and so forth, then these kind of things will make a difference. So it's important to bear these things in mind. It's not like you need to keep checking every single cell, but if you kind of have a feeling that there is some mistake, something is not adding up, then it's always good to go back and just to have a look what's really happening in this cell, because Excel will be using these values over here for the calculation. This is only the way things are displayed, and if you want them to be more precise in the way they display, then you can always go to number format, and depending on what kind of format you're expecting, you might want to change it to sorry, we need to increase it, so we're going other way. You see, if we increase decimals, now it's perfect. And so this is really for you to be able to quickly spot mistakes, to see what happens. You know, whenever you have cell like that, you know, it's always good if you, let's say here, yeah, these decimals are not really useful, you know, it just makes it more difficult to read the number. Let's take it back. But you always know that if you don't want the precise number, you're not just gonna copy from whatever you see, just write it down for instance somewhere, but you will need to click right here. Well, in this case that's not helpful, because what you get is a formula, so you actually have to use increase here button just to see, okay, we haven't got any more than 2 decimal places. So that's very important. Whatever is displayed is not necessarily what the real numbers are, so go and check it, especially if you think like something's really not adding up for you. Now the third thing is, you might sometimes come to your action and see some really strange numbers, and there are a lot of things that, you know, we could talk about. There's really quite a few topics that could have been covered in this video, but one thing is that dates are a bit of funny format, because they are really numbers, but they can be presented in different ways. So for instance, if we have, let's say, 6th of February 2015, it can be written like this. It can be written like this. This is the long format, and you can find it right there. And there is short format, which just looks like here. And you can then say, let's say, 10th of February 2015, and you can use these for calculations. So Excel will be able to tell you how many days were there in between these two. All you're doing is just taking away bigger date minus date further in the past. That is 4 days ago, and you know, you can easily check whether that's correct. It is correct. Well, in order to do that, because if we change that to, you know, we can change it to just long date, then you see the full name of the month. Excel is still able to do the calculation. The reason Excel can do the calculation is because Excel codes every single date into a number. If you click on number format, you will see that the dates that are in 2015, there are around 42,000, because Excel started counting on the 1st of January 1900, and so after 2,200, yeah, 1,000. What I'm saying, after 114 years and so, we've arrived at this sort of number of days. So this is what Excel is using for calculation. Sometimes you might see these kind of numbers, and you go like, what happened? I had dates over here. Where are they? Well, most of the time, where your numbers look weird, when they look not what they should look like, the reason is that this is to do with number formatting. So all you need to do is to highlight and then choose the format that you need from the list. And this can happen if you already have some cell which already had to change format. You know, when you work in worksheet, you constantly enter and delete and change around and so on. So if we change this to number format already without even entering anything, and then later on, which one was that? Here. Later on, if you enter a date, let's say 1st of January 2015, it will straight away jump to number format. And you know, if you see this, you might really not know what's going on. All you need to do is just to go here and then select appropriate format for it. So I hope this video helped you to understand some very basic of entering data. Just to recap, always numbers in separate cells, because that's how you can use them for formulas. Be creative with how you can put descriptions next to them, and you know, if you really don't like doing them in different cells, then you just have to get over it, because that's how you will make your Excel calculations much more effective. Second thing, always be careful whenever you see numbers. Don't just assume that that's the number. Just click on it, and then you can actually check whether this number is correct, and you can always increase decimals or decrease just to make sure you're correct. And second thing is, dates can turn into number formats, and that can look a bit strange, especially if you're entering data and then it turns into something totally different. You can always go back and change it into date format, and for that you need to use this here, number format, and then there will be another